Hello and welcome to another very exciting episode of your number one legal talk show, The Courthouse, where we get to learn the law in plain, simple and entertaining language. I am Ito and Olomu-Agbodo. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
If we have to give you anything, then we have to give you everything. Love Plus Channel 465 is simply the best. Because we have something for every member of the family. So dads, keep the team spirit going on with our intriguing sport highlights and reviews. And moms, cooking is never boring when you have our intriguing drama series. And for all your lovely kids, just sit and enjoy. This, and oh this. I told you, we have something for everyone. Because we are indeed all about you. So keep it locked on Love Plus Channel 465 on Star Times.
Love Plus app is bigger and better. Watch all our shows with just a click.
Let him have the right to decide what happens with your body.
Watch inspiring, informative and entertaining programs. You can comment, like and share. Watch our live TV and web TV on your mobile devices. Watch the big stories in real time or when you have the time. Experience Love Plus app right now. Download Love Plus app on Android, iOS and BlackBerry. Go to Google Play Store, Apple App Store or Windows Phone Store. Welcome to the bigger picture. Love Will Plus, beyond television.
More than ever before, the world is rapidly on the move and more integrated than ever. How far we go
depends on how well we understand our world.
We are here to help make sense of it all, whether politics, business, sports, or entertainment.
We bring you unbiased analysis of events,
places, and people making the news. You can count on Love World Plus News.
Stay close to the news.
Stay well informed, always on Love World Plus.
You're welcome back if you just joined us. This is the Courthouse, and this week we are going to take a look at fundamental human rights. These are rights that accrue to everyone as a human being. You have the right, I have the right. And I'm joined this week by Evans Ufeli, who's going to be telling us about fundamental human rights. You're welcome to the Courthouse.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so fundamental rights, which of them do we really need to know about?
Well, let's establish the fact that we have two kinds of rights
by
the Nigerian Constitution. We have the socio-economic rights captured in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which is from Section 13 of the Constitution. And we have fundamental rights, which is captured in Chapter 4 of the Constitution from Section 33 of the Constitution. Both rights are important in Nigeria. Even though the socio-economic rights are not enforceable, the fundamental rights are enforceable.
Okay, why are the socio-economic rights not enforceable in
The
Nigeria?
socio-economic rights are not enforceable because by Section 6, subsection 6C of the Constitution, there's what they call the ouster clause, where it is stated expressly that these rights will only subsist and can be practicable. They say as at when practicable. They can only be guaranteed as at when practicable. Okay, because their socio-economic rights, they have to do with rights to provide education from primary to tertiary, to provide security and welfare for the citizens, to empower the citizens, to stir the economy in ways to create prosperity and all that. So they are actually wide. Okay, these rights are very broad.
So are they, is it that they are so wide that they cannot be enforced? Because in some other jurisdictions, we get to see people going to courts over some of these rights that are called
it should be enforceable because the social contract that a citizen upon birth sign with the government and upon paying of tax, you are supposed to have this as a matter of rights. Okay. Your socio-economic rights should become a pivotal principle or pivotal policy of government. But here we have not seen it play that way, okay? If you look at section 14, say the rights of the citizen, you need to have security and welfare is the primary purpose of government, okay? Then if you look at all other sections from that chapter 2, you'll find all that. But it is not yet practicable here. It's not yet enforceable here because of the government and because of the kind of constitution we operate.
Okay.
Until that is amended. So, but when you look at chapter 4, which has to do with the fundamental rights, those rights are enforceable. That's why in section 46, there it says, if any of the following rights is violated, you can't bring a fundamental right enforcement.
So just to get something clear, you are talking about the fact that there are two general classes of rights,
yes.
the socio-economic rights and the fundamental rights.
Yes.
That is in Nigeria.
Yes.
And now you said the socio-economic rights are not enforceable per se in Nigeria,
yes.
and that they are generally considered as wide, and the government has not deemed it necessary to see these rights as enforceable,
yes.
or we've not grown, this jurisdiction has not grown to the extent of enforcing such rights.
Yes.
So now let's move away from that, because that, I don't want us to dwell into, because a lot of jurisdictions actually enforce these rights. So now looking at fundamental rights, I have right to life,
yes.
yet the courts can sentence one to death. Can you?
Yeah, that is the exception. That's section 33 of the Constitution, talk about the right to life. And if you look at it, everyone have a right to life, okay?
Yes.
But there's an exception to that, except where a competent court of jurisdiction has convicted and found the person guilty and has convicted him. And then the penalty of that offense is death sentence. Okay? So, and when there is insurrection, and then the state authority, law enforcement agencies are trying to quell the insurrection, and the loss of life occur, it's an exception. Okay. Also, where you resist arrests, this one is very fundamental, especially in Nigeria here. When you resist arrests, and then anything of that nature occurs, okay, it falls under the exception.
Okay, so can you give us some other rights? And
yeah, we have other rights. Section 34, every individual is entitled to respect of his human dignity. Okay, human dignity.
On that. Human
dignity is that nobody should be subjected to any kind of dehumanizing condition, servitude, slavery, hardship, and then untold physical injury. Okay, anyone who does that to another person has contravened the Constitution, and there are penalties for it. That is to say that every individual have that right to the respect of his human dignity. As a human being, there are certain things that should not be done to you. There are certain kind of disposition or attitude that should not be extended to you. You should not be beaten up unnecessarily. You should not be tortured by the police. It should not be. There are a lot of issues like that. It's to protect the right of the citizen, given that even an accused person have the same rights, not to be tortured and not to be. It's respect of human persons.
To prevent an accused person from being tortured is under the right to dignity of the person.
Yes, even people that have been condemned in prison, so long as they are alive, they still have that right to respect of human dignity. They must be treated fairly. Yes.
So in practice, we hear people saying they've been in detention for a long time without, they are waiting trial. They've just been in detention. They've not even been charged with crime. So is that not a violation of the fundamental rights of these?
It is a violation because of our criminal jurisprudence. The criminal jurisprudence in Nigeria is a little bit slow. And because it's slow, and then the administration of criminal justice is under reform. And that is why not too long ago we had the new Administration of Criminal Justice Law Act, and then we have that replicated in states, different states. To everything you have there, all the provisions you have there is to enhance speedy trial, to ensure that those that are in prison are meant to be there, and those who are not there are not meant to be there. So it's to cure all this.
Okay. So before we go into another aspect of fundamental rights, we want to take a listen to our report on fundamental rights and a look at our legal nuggets. Stay with us. Fundamental human rights are those privileges and entitlements individuals have for being humans. Fundamental human rights are natural and inherent in all human beings, regardless of their nation, location, language, religion, ethnic origin, or other status. Types of fundamental human rights include the right to life, the right to dignity of persons, right to freedom of speech, right to freedom of association, the right to fair hearing, the right to freedom of movement, the right from freedom of discrimination, the right to personal liberty, the right to vote and be voted for during an election, the right to private family life, the right to ownership of properties, among others. Human rights abuse occurs when individuals are denied their fundamental rights as listed above. Human rights abuse is a social problem which can make people rebellious against constituted authorities. Ways of preventing human rights abuse. Every right that we have must be balanced against someone else's rights. For instance, the right that you have to speak your mind about a person must be balanced against that person's right to not have his or her reputation ruined maliciously. That said, below are some of the ways of preventing fundamental human rights abuse: respect for and obedience to the law of the land, educating citizens on their rights, imposing sanctions on those who abuse other people's rights, equality before the law, collectively fighting human rights abusers, activities of the Human Rights Organization, limitations to human rights. Civil unrest. Whenever there's a riot or crisis, there will not be freedom of movement. Some people's movements can be limited if they have a case in the law court. A citizen who is infected with deadly diseases may be isolated for treatment in order not to infect other people, thereby denying him or her freedom of movement. A person's land and property can be destroyed if built on the wrong place or if government wants to make some construction of roads or other projects that will be useful for the public. A person who is found guilty of a murder case can lose his or her right to life. You're welcome back. This is still the courthouse, and I am Ito Hand Olomu-Agbodo, and I still have with me Evans Ufeli, who's been talking about fundamental rights. We've talked about dignity of the human person. You've talked about right to life and the exception. So are there any other fundamental rights that we should know about?
We have a right to personal liberty.
Personal liberty.
And no person shall be deprived of such liberty. Okay? Personal liberty means you have a right to freedom. Okay? Not to be coerced, intimidated, or sectionalized, or discriminated. As a citizen of the country, you have that right to personal liberty. The only exception to that is when there's an execution of an order of court. The right to personal liberty can be infringed, or where there's an order. You understand?
Okay,
and then,
so looking at these rights, we've been focusing on Nigeria. Are there similarities in other jurisdictions, in other parts of the world that would need to know about or even need to learn from?
Yeah, there are similarities and there are dissimilarities. In some countries, where they codify human rights, they codify it alongside animal rights. Oh. In some countries, okay, but we seem not to have gotten to that level. Even properties have rights in some jurisdictions. Okay. There is a way not to treat properties. Okay. Some jurisdictions even have rights not to treat inanimate objects in a way, but they have feelings for them as well. So we have the fundamental rights here is comparable to that of India. We have close touch. The difference between we and India and South Africa is that their socio-economic rights are enforceable.
Okay.
In other words,
socio-economic rights are also not enforceable.
It's enforceable.
It's enforceable in
Yes,
South Africa.
in South Africa.
What about in India?
In India, it's enforceable.
It's also enforceable.
Even though the success rate in India is low,
but
compared to that of
on record.
Yeah, it's enforceable. If government, you see, the rights you have is the article of faith. This is what ties the citizen to the government upon the disposition of social contract. That this is how the citizen is expected to live, and if the citizens have complied, the government must also live this way. Okay, so you don't have a situation where the citizens have taken this right, this disposition, and have complied absolutely. But government have decided to draw its policy to reflect, okay, what it should be. Okay. So it's important we know that. Okay,
this is just a crash course on fundamental rights. We'll take a look at some aspects later. But we have another segment, the Babuk. What is your favorite Latin maxim for this week?
Well, let me, ipso facto. That
ipso
is
facto.
Until now. That's what it means.
Until now. Yes. Okay, since you said ipso facto, I will stay with res ipsa loquitur, which means the facts speak for themselves. You get to find out more Latin maxims on the Babuk. Stay with us. You're welcome back, and we have question and answer segments. One of our legal experts is going to answer some questions sent in by our viewers. Take a listen.
You find that in a particular corner of the letter. It's actually embodied. You don't find that in contract. You can't write contracts without prejudice. It's a letter that you write without prejudice. And the essence of that is that maybe there is a dispute, or there is an unfolding dispute between a party, and then the parties will either need to go to court or would have gone to court, and then they are trying to seek for an amicable way of resolving that dispute. Now, in that process, a letter may be written because, sometimes when people go to court, they don't tell the whole truth. They try to hide some facts. But in the parlance of settlement, they could come out to tell the truth. And then if they are not safeguarded within that period, of course, this could equally be the content of a meeting. Now, if they are not safeguarded, you will now play into the hand of the opponent, who will now take words or content of your letter to go against you in court. So when you're writing such letters in lieu of settlement of an existing dispute or a potential dispute, if you're writing such letters, you now write at a particular corner of the letter without prejudice. This means you are not prejudiced by the content of the letter that you are writing or by the nature of the meetings, the information that you have disclosed in the course of a meeting towards settlement. Now, once that is done, it then becomes difficult for the other party to now tender that letter as evidence or an exhibit against the party who made that letter in court. That's the essence of having to write a letter without prejudice. If that is not there, ordinarily the letter will be tendered and can be used against the party. But once it is written without prejudice, the court sees it from the standpoint that the parties have already agreed and they are in consensus, they are in ad idem at the beginning. So the fact that this letter is not supposed to be used for the purpose of this trial. So you obviate yourself of the challenge or the problem of now shooting yourself on the feet because you have opened your guards in the process or in the bid of settlement.
You're welcome back. Mr. Evans, I must say thank you so much for being with us this week on the show.
Thank you.
And we know we'll spend some other time talking more about some specific rights. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's the much we can take this week on the show. If you have comments for us, we'd like you to log on to our website on www.loveoplus.org and send your comments to numbers that will be showing on your screen now. And of course, we want to see your questions. We want to answer them. So send your questions to us. I am Olomu-Agbodo, and I say, don't just get mad. Go get a lawyer. From me, it's bye for now.